Hey guys! I know it's been a while since I was last on here. Without going into too much detail, I've had some pretty crazy life events. Um, but I just wanted to come on. I wanted to do another knitting chats because life has been interesting and I wanted to share what's going on with me, a couple of potential future projects. And just as a quick disclaimer, while the actors and writing strikes are still on, I will not be promoting or even really talking about any TV shows or movies because I think it's really important to stand with our actors and writers. I mean, TV shows and movies are some of the backbones of society. We've seen that during quarantine. Really, I think they're so important to so many people, and in the age of streaming, we need to make sure that our artists, writers, and actors are paid fairly. I also think it's really important just to stand with unions in general. So even though I don't necessarily have aspirations of being an actor, I think it's best to just abide by strike rules and not be giving anyone free promotion. Okay, so with all that out of the way, I've been really enjoying stuff at the moment. I've been enjoying uni. I'm not sure what point in time I last uploaded, but at the moment I'm studying science arts, so I'm taking history and creative writing courses alongside my anatomy content, which is really great. I feel like the arts balances out the sciences so well. I had a chat with one of my cousins recently who saw me do a fairly impromptu speech at a family event, and he said that I should look into news presenting as a career, which was interesting to me because I'd never really considered it. So yeah, I've been chatting with family about what that would look like, what that would mean. Mum said for the moment she thinks I should try to keep this YouTube channel up and running, that I should continue with my writing, and she also thinks that I should potentially start a podcast just to see where these things go and to then have a little bit of a portfolio for future employers and things like that. So I don't know, I feel like that could be super interesting. At any rate, I know that I need to have some level of creativity to function. So I probably will keep up with all these things as hobbies, I guess. None of them are necessarily careers for me at the moment, so I don't want to push myself too hard. But I really love doing this. I haven't had a lot of time to get back on here recently, but I do really enjoy having an outlet or a couple of outlets just to make them my spaces, not like MySpace, the old website, but just to have some things that I can point to and go, look, I made this. This is mine now. I haven't been knitting a whole heap at the moment just because I've been learning the basics of crochet and getting into that. I made some fingerless gloves recently, which I thought was super cute. I did a pair of purple ones with some slightly chunkier yarn, and then I've done one fingerless glove in grey for the left hand, and then I need to do the one for my right hand soon. But yeah, I'm on uni break at the moment, so I'm not taking any classes. I'm hoping to potentially batch film some content for here, get back into doing, you know, all my Instagram accounts and things like that. Because as much as I love being on holidays and having nothing to do, once I do nothing for a long enough time, it starts kind of eating away at me. It's not like a thing of I constantly have to be productive. I definitely don't. I often need a lot of time to myself to recharge after a long day. But at the same time, I feel like I'm a person who's meant to be doing things. Like, I'm meant to do something with my life, and I'm meant to create. I'm not sure exactly what form that'll take yet, but, you know, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm passionate about and manifesting, you know. I'm gonna have my dream life someday. And I know that there are good things in store for me as long as I just keep my head down, keep working at it, keep doing the things I love. Yeah. What else has been going on at the moment for me? I went out for coffee this morning with my mum, which was really nice. We went to a cafe that's quite close to ours. It's funny because very rarely do I actually just like sit in a cafe and take it all in. Often I'll grab takeaway and I'll come back home or like go out and do other stuff. But yeah, it was really nice to just sit down to take it all in. It was lightly raining this morning as well, which just really added to the ambience. Yeah, so that was really lovely. I'm sorry, this knitting pattern takes a lot more of my concentration than they normally do because I'm not sure I'm doing a very good job of it, but it's meant to be ribbing, so you have to knit, then purl, then knit, then purl, and keep alternating. And one thing knitting has taught me, and Dungeons and Dragons has also taught me, is that I'm just not that good with counting and basic math. Like, I think I am. Like, I'll always be like, no, you know, I'm great at, like, addition, subtraction, all that sort of thing, but I'm really not. Okay. Like, whenever I'm knitting, and especially when crocheting, I find it so hard to actually take note of each stitch. And to just keep up with doing the same thing. I do think it's funny though, because a lot of people on campus will know me for knitting. Since, like, I work with my uni magazine quite frequently. And I write lots of articles for them. And I'll occasionally do some promo stuff. But whenever I'm at their meetings, I've nearly always got a craft project in hand. So they're constantly updated on what I'm making, and if that day it's a hat or a scarf or, you know, some sort of bag, potentially gloves, although, like, I'm not sure. I've crocheted in front of them a lot. They know me for that, and then whenever I'm at lectures in person, it's always with yarn in hand, always while creating something. Yeah, I just find that I can be a person who has a lot of nervous energy if I'm not creating at the moment. And I think it's really positive for me to channel that into something that's enjoyable, something that's worthwhile, you know, something that's creative and that can make other people smile. I didn't intend for that to rhyme, but oh well, it's funny either way. I must say it's more difficult than I thought to give life updates without mentioning TV or movies at all. Like, they just take up such a large and important place in my life that it feels really foreign not talking about them. Which I guess is what makes the strikes so important, because we rely on these actors and writers to have the art that we sit at home and watch, that we wait for when it's released. Yeah. I have been reading a decent amount recently. I'm getting back into Jane Austen at the moment. So I've already read Pride and Prejudice and Northanger Abbey. I read those a couple of years back. At the moment, I'm, I guess, 3/4 of the way through Persuasion. I have a really cute boxed set of her books. It includes, I guess, her 6 most prominent novels, because it includes Pride and Prejudice, Northanger Abbey, Persuasion, Emma, Mansfield Park, Sense and Sensibility. Yeah. So I've been reading a lot of Jane Austen. I've been reading a little bit of fiction at the moment, as in more modern fiction. I've been getting back into Stephen King as well. The main one of his that I'm reading at the moment is 11/22/63, which is I guess, less horror than a lot of his other works. It's like speculative fiction, which has a lot of time travel, like stopping the Kennedy assassination. Yeah. I hope I don't accidentally spoil anything while talking about these books, by the way. I'm still partway through reading All the President's Men. Honestly, I feel like it's a good book. It's just taking me a while, especially because I know not all the events in there are 100% true. Like, it does really, I guess, exaggerate the involvement of Woodward and Bernstein in unearthing the Watergate scandal, but it's still pretty good. It's still related to US history, which is one of my biggest special interests. But yeah, it's nice. I've also been getting into the habit recently of playing audiobooks as I go to bed, which I find that some level of background noise really helps me sleep, but at the same time, it's a bit frustrating because if I do that with any book that I haven't already read, then I won't know the ending because I'll wake up and it'll be finished, sort of thing. Like, I tried that with The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and like, while I have a vague knowledge that at some point it included dinosaurs, I was asleep for all of it. Yeah, but I think it's good to do with classics that I've already read, because on Apple iBooks you can often get audiobooks of classics for free. So listening to those before bed, I don't know, I just feel like I really enjoy it. I really appreciate it. At the moment, I have been listening to quite a lot of podcasts as well. The thing with me in podcasts is that my interests range and vary quite considerably. So I listen to podcasts that reflect that. Like, some of my podcasts are about the experience of queerness. Others are, you know, reporting on reality TV or radio shows. And then quite a significant chunk of them are obviously about US politics and US history. And then a few are also about neurodiversity. So it is a little bit funny because half of my podcasts feel like very, very feminine, very girly pop culture energy, and then the other half are majority by old white dudes. But you know, that's the beauty of being a human being, right? We're all complex, amazing people. You know, I contain multitudes, you contain multitudes, and we all have, like, no human person should be able to be reduced to any one thing. Because we all have goals, we all have dreams, we all have different ways of connecting to community, and we all have different things to offer, but we also all have worth outside of what we can provide. Maybe that got slightly too deep for a Little Knitting Chats video, but Oh well, you know. Like, I don't want to say I'm anything I'm not, but considering how stream of consciousness this all is, it does make me feel like a little bit like the modern equivalent of what Virginia Woolf did in her novels. With the obvious distinction being that she wrote fiction, whereas my Knitting Chats videos are obviously slightly more grounded in current reality. Generally speaking, I don't make up stories for these. I normally just talk about things that are going on in life, things that are going on in the world. Yeah. My knitting has gone a little bit wrong at the moment. I'm going to need to redo this one stitch quickly. But yeah, that's the thing. I find knitting so calming and soothing until you lose a stitch or until you do something wrong. And it's like most of it is incredibly calm, but I'll never let out a string of swear words the way I do when I've lost a stitch and I think the project might be doomed. That's the thing, even when I'm in the car with mum or something, she'll hear me quickly start swearing. And then she'll be like, oh my god, what's happened? And I'll be like, I lost a stitch. Because, like, obviously with the current project I'm doing, it's not super long at the moment. But it can get very, very tricky very quickly when you've got a project that's really long and you've got a line of stitches that's becoming slowly undone. Because it's possible that you'll need to lose a couple of rows worth of work in order to fix it and in order to make it better, which can be really frustrating. Especially because, I mean, obviously I normally am doing other things when I knit. Like, I'm normally in a lecture or chatting to people or even making a video like this. But even if you're multitasking and you're doing something else at the same time, you still put hours into every knitting project. Very rarely do I have a knitting project which I finished in less than a single hour, and if I do, it's normally because it's some form of small pouch. Like, I made a dice bag for my D&D dice, which I finished in maybe an hour. But that's tiny because it's just for holding my Dungeons and Dragons dice. Every other project I've done has taken far longer than that. Like, I babysit as my main form of income. Some nights when I babysit, it's up to 6 hours of work, probably at the long end. And most of my knitting projects, I don't finish in that span of time. Most of them will end up taking longer than that for whatever reason. Because especially with scarves, I feel like people really underestimate how many hours go into them. Like, I tend to be quite a fast knitter most of the time. But some of my scarves have definitely taken upwards of 10 hours of active work. 10 hours is what I use as like a rough benchmark for craft projects, because this is a very niche craft, but I used to hand sew bow ties. And normally each bow tie would take around 10 hours, and that was, I mean, it was fun, but it was quite labor intensive, because there are lots of things that go into making something like that look good and making it actually wearable. Yeah. I never know exactly when to stop these videos, because I don't know. I feel like it's, for me, it's almost a little bit of a video diary. It's something that I feel like I can just lay out all my thoughts. Like, it is a little bit therapeutic for me just to sit down, talk at a screen, to know that my ideas and my thoughts are going to be out there and that people might actually listen to and appreciate them. Absolutely wild. You know, the age of technology has allowed us to do things that we never would have done prior, you know? Humans were built for storytelling, and humans were built for conversations, you know? Like, a lot of what is portrayed in pop culture about cavemen is false. But one thing we do know for sure is that across human history, we have always been built to be creative. We have always been built to make art and to tell stories to one another. And even though people, I guess, occasionally look down on YouTube as an art form, I feel like that's just the modern summit of that desire to tell stories, to share experiences. Even YouTube challenges from years back that people cringe at, I feel like are just the natural progression of human desires and the human need to share things. I don't know, maybe I'm being too sentimental. Maybe I'm just finding the beauty in everything. But I feel like it's worth thinking about. And I do feel like it's worth considering. Thank you for coming to this knitting chat. If you stayed to the end, I appreciate it so much. And bye for now.